Answer the question, can he both blow up the Chinese trade relations and help manufacturers at the same time?
Well, we certainly hope so. You know, manufacturers have an all-time optimistic outlook for the economy, for their companies. In fact, in our last survey of our manufacturers, we do it every quarter. We've been doing it for 20 years. 95% of manufacturers expressed a positive outlook. And 86% say they want to invest more. They're planning to invest more in the United States. 77% say they're going to hire more. 72% say they're going to raise wages and benefits. That's all because of tax and regulatory reform. The headwinds, of course, as you've alluded to, are the possibilities that tariffs could kind of knock us off track. We hope that's not the case, and we hope the president can get China back to the negotiating table and do it soon.
Well, exactly. If it ends soon, then it won't have too many ramifications. But at the same time, although manufacturers are in a strong position, as you say, there's, as you also say, a headwind. Josh Bolton, the head of the Business Roundtable, you know him well. He was chief of staff under President George W. Bush, came out with their report, their survey of their people yesterday. And among other things, he said, that contrary to the assertion that new tariffs and trade restrictions are making our economy strong, almost none of our companies see it as a positive. Do you think that's shared with manufacturers generally, that if they may be able to get through it, but nobody sees it as a good thing?
Well, right. Look, there are two really key uncertainties right now when it comes to the outlook for manufacturing. Again, you know, I want to emphasize the great news that's come from tax reform and regulatory reform. It's resulted in about 350,000 new manufacturing jobs over the course of the last 18 months. However, the headwinds are definitely trade. Where are we headed? Are we going to be hurting any of our relationships with, let's say, Canada and Mexico? The NAFTA agreement is critical. And how will the tariffs that are being imposed on China impact our ability to compete and succeed globally? The other big threat, or the big concern, I should say, is the fact that manufacturers have a very large vacancy rate, if you will. About 500,000 jobs in manufacturing today are going unfilled because of the lack of skilled labor. Those two things together are starting to cause some uncertainty in the sector. There's no doubt about that.
Is there some differentiation among your members about how they feel on this issue? Because I'm just making this up now, but if you were a washing machine manufacturer, you might like it just fine that there are tariffs on washing machines being imposed because you get to charge more money, maybe hire more skilled workers.
I think that the bottom line for all manufacturers is, what is the end game? If the end game is to ensure that we're going to be able to stop China's cheating, their theft of intellectual property, their subsidization of products, their forced localization, if all of those things can be addressed through a bilateral rules-based trade agreement, then the effort will have been worth it. And our goal, of course, is to get China back to the negotiating table. There is no way to tell, certainly from outside of government, whether China is looking seriously at doing that and whether the administration feels that they're making progress. It is our hope as manufacturers, obviously, that the end game is complete, and that at the end we have the two largest economies in the world playing by an agreed-to set of rules that make trade fair and balanced for all.
So, Jay, finally, it sounds like what you're saying is it sort of depends on how long this goes on. If it's reasonably short and we get to a good result, that's all fine and good. If it goes on indefinitely, it might be different. Let me ask you this. Are your members already starting to change their strategic plans in terms of investments, in terms of supply lines? Or are they saying, let's hold off in the hopes that this is a matter of months, not of years?
So I think that's an excellent question, and I appreciate the way you phrased it. I'm going to go back one more time to tax and regulatory reform that gave manufacturers kind of that tailwind that has propelled us forward as a sector. But if you look back a couple of years ago and the uncertainty that existed because of potential regulatory impediments that the past administration were putting forward, I'm starting to see the exact same type of uncertainty being generated by manufacturers when it comes to tariffs. I can't tell you what the timeline will be for manufacturers making decisions on whether to invest here or not, whether to hire here or not. But clearly that uncertainty exists, just as the BRT poll that you mentioned shows. We're starting to see that among our members at the National Association of Manufacturers as well. The question is, how long will it take to get China back to the table? How fast can we come up with a rules-based agreement that is good not only for both of our countries moving forward, but for the entire world economically?